This was another great episode that really helped to progress the story and dangle some more of those very important overarching plot threads. Very, very neat stuff.
Hunter, Hunter, Episode 38, Reply from Dad.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and epic tale of Hunter, Hunter. Our last episode, of course, saw us as being really kind of a wind-down bridge episode, bridging the gap between arcs, having left Heaven's Arena and returning home to Whale Island to visit with his aunt. The episode, the end of it, or the climax of it, was being able to Killua and Gon being able to open this mysterious box that his father had left for him, 12 years ago. When he went and dumped him off on the island with his aunt. So, and then they wound up finding a ring, a tape, cassette tape, and a memory card in there. And the episode ends with him hearing his father's voice for the first time and him saying, "Do you want to meet me?" You know. So I guess now you're a hunter. Do you want to meet me? And that's how the episode left off. And that's right where it picks up. And honestly, I don't have much respect for his father at all. And actually, I'm going to call him Ging. Ging and Gon sounds a little bit better as a father and son and what have you, so that's kind of what I'm going to go with. Ging just sounds kind of weird and janky, so nonetheless, though, that's what I'm going to go with for right now. But so they finish listening to the tape, and well, first the father goes and gives him a couple opportunities to back out. If you don't want to meet me, go ahead and press stop right now. Well, I'll let you really think about it, but for a minute, and and then he stops, and then he comes, okay, I guess you really do want to meet me, but I don't want to meet you. And I'm like, what a prick this guy is, man. And then he goes and he says, well, because I chose, being a hunter means to be very selfish, and, I chose my own ambitions and things like that over, my parental duties. And it's like, okay, so not only are you admitting that you're a piece of shit and a schmuck, but now you're not even willing to go and try to rectify that as all. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, especially with having kids myself, and seeing other people that have had kids and be kind of absentee parents, or seeing divorces, or just seeing people not take responsibility for the kids that they have had, things like that. That's something that really does not set well with me at all, and I look upon very negatively, regardless of it being a fictional story or not, because I think about it in my mind and it's like, man, what a piece of garbage. It's one thing to go and make a mistake and realize that you did make a mistake and that you chose your own ambitions over your parental duties. But it's another thing entirely to be a dick about it and then be like, well, because I can't face my own demons, and deal with my own past mistakes, I don't want to see you anyway. And he says, so if you want to see me, you're a hunter, come find me. But I'm warning you, if I sense you near, I'll become scarce, I'll disappear. And I'm like, what an asshole. The cool thing about this whole thing, though, is that it does go into almost like a, not really like a flashback, but almost like a check-in on Ging and see what he's doing. And it, so it's like zooms out from Whale Island and takes us like across, continents and what have you, to some really cool-looking pillar that reaches up into the sky in some weird kind of barren, desolate land that looks like it's, I don't know, just looks like it's like been ravaged by war or something like that, almost like prehistoric look. And Ging is riding on top of this beast that is riding on top of this like wyvern dragon looking thing. So very cool to see that and to actually see him, I guess in action and to know that he's still alive, and I don't know how far this thread dangles out, if he ever does meet up with his father or what. I don't have a lot of respect for him at this point and how he was. So, and especially what happens afterwards. Then he goes on to say, if you want to know more about your mother, keep listening to the tape, right? And he hits stop. And Killua was like, are you sure? And Gon's like, no, I told you, Mito-san is my mother now. So he's like, almost got that like, whatever. If she abandoned me and never even made an attempt to contact me, screw her. I don't want to know anything about it. Then all of a sudden, the thing starts glowing with this aura, the tape player, and it rewinds, and it's actually kind of cool to see this. I know that this was, it started back in 98 or 99, and they updated some things with the internet and stuff like that to reflect the times now, for this particular version, incarnation of the anime. But it's neat to see things like tape players, because I actually remember what those were when I was a kid. So, but it's obviously gone to CDs and now just, downloads and stuff since then. But, MP3s and such. But, so this thing starts glowing with this aura of Nen, and the thing rewinds itself and then starts recording, so it records over the actual tape. And that's how cassette tapes worked. You could just go and, you could just press record and you record whatever ambient sound, whatever sound was going on in the room around you. So, you know, they try everything to go in to get this. Killua whips it against the wall and everything, but this Nen that, you know, that Ging wound up putting on this thing 10 years ago or what have you, you know, it was designed to go and erase the tape and everything. And they're like, why the hell would he do that? And they even tried to make a copy, you know, had made a copy. That one was erased too. And, you know, Killua chalks it up to, well, you can learn a lot about a person just by their voice. You can learn their height, weight, age, you know, chronic diseases, all these different things. And you can also learn about, you know, from the ambient background noise, like approximately where they were and everything else. And he's obviously a guy who doesn't want to be found, so it's going to be very difficult, to say the least. But then Killua also kind of has a hypothesis, and he winds up, you know, kind of theorizing that somebody that's an acute or a very talented user with Nen can probably extract even more information off of a tape like that. So whatever, it was for his own protection. I still think it was a dick move. So they go and they look at the other two things in there, and they decide the ring's not going to really be of much consequence right now, but let's check out the memory card. And then the cool thing about the memory card, and I like this too because it was a nod back to my PlayStation days, and really I've been a gamer ever since probably Atari. I was very, very young when Atari came out. My first real system that I got was the Nintendo Entertainment System back when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something for Christmas. And I've pretty much been through every generation of system since then. PlayStation, though, was one of those high watermarks for me, though. I thought it was great. I worked at Toys R Us at the time when it came out, and it was going up against head-to-head against the Sega Saturn, and Sony was an untested. I mean, they made electronic products, but they had never made a game system before, and they were going up against the Nintendo 64, and that's where Nintendo shot themselves in the foot because they decided to stick with a cartridge-based system, and Sony and Sega had gone to a CD base where you could, you know, obviously have a lot more information for cutscenes, voiceovers, things like that. It's a way of the future. But Nintendo just was mired in the past, and ultimately, you know, still charging $70 for their games wound up not doing good things for them. Anyway, apologize to get off on my little history lesson there about video games. The point is, the memory card that's with it is for something called a Joystation, very similar to a PlayStation. Killua explains that it's three gaming console generations, you know, old, and asks for a local toy store in town, which, you know, Gon directs him to or tells him where it is. Killua goes off and gets one of these and comes back. They plug it in. They put the memory card in, and anybody who knows anything about PlayStation or any type of game system, the memory card is just the saved game that you had, right? You actually have to have the disc to play the game. So they find out that it's a saved game for a game called Greed Island. And that's where the plot really starts to thicken up over here, because they go on the internet and search for Greed Island, and there's no used copies anywhere. They get some information on it, and when it was produced, you know, whatever, 20 years ago or whenever the hell it came out, I don't know, 10 years ago, I forget the exact time frame, they only made 20 copies. And they sold for 5.8 billion Jenny, which I'm assuming is similar to like a yen or something like that. I'm assuming the conversion of 5.8 billion, I'm just going to convert it like yen and convert that to like, you know, whatever it would be, 580 million or 58 million. It's a lot of money regardless. They wind up, Killua and Gon, from both of their winnings from kicking ass and taking names in Heaven's Arena, have about 800 million. So they need about 5 billion more, and that would just be at retail. You know, Killua's like, more than likely now, since it's rare, if you can find a copy, people are going to be selling it for a higher price, which is true. That's how it works with rare things. Nonetheless, though, they look up stuff, and it's a game about hunters for hunters, right? So Killua goes and he calls up his fat slob piece of shit brother, the one that was trying to whip him and beat him and whatnot back in episode 23, 24, I think it was. And he calls up his fat shit brother because he knows a lot about it. This kid's sitting around. He's got what looks like a life-size blow-up doll in his room. He's got fucking Cheeto stains on his shirt. You know, he's sitting there, you know, eating his food, drinking his Mountain Dew, playing video games, and masturbating, right? And they don't show all that stuff, but that's what's insinuated. So Killua gets some information out of him and gets a couple leads in exchange for giving him a copy of this memory card, because anything with Greed Island is worth a ton of money. And the first lead is basically there's a hunter website for hunters only that the brother's going to give him once he receives the memory card from Killua. And he's going to be able to go on there, and you might be able to find something out about it, find a lead on it there. The other lead, he said, which is a little more solid, happens to coincide with where they're going anyway for September 1st to meet up with Kurapika and Leorio, and that's York New City at this huge auction that they have. I guess rumor has it that there's going to be somebody distributing dozens of copies. And prior to this, they actually called up the company that made it and everything. They're like, no, we have no more in stock. We don't have any plans on reprinting it either, you know. So obviously there's going to be some bootleg copies. With the word on the street is that somebody like Black Market is going to be selling these things there, you know. So that's kind of cool, and it's how it transitions into this whole York New City arc, which I'm very excited about. I've gotten a personal message, tweets, Facebook messages, anything you can imagine from many of you, explaining to me about how, oh, you're not even prepared, man. York New City is the shit. So I'm excited. I'm hyped, I'm definitely excited for it. So, the episode ends off with them leaving off on a boat to go to York New City and to obviously meet up with Leorio and Koropeka. And kind of take it from there and see what's going on. So I'm definitely excited, to say the least, as I mentioned before. A very cool episode, and again, one of those that kind of bridged the gap between the story arcs as far as the action and things like that. Really no action of consequence, but to me, the information, the background that we got about Ging, about Gon's father, him alluding to having information that he would have given him about his mother, and then obviously the kind of catch me if you can type of scenario. So I know that's going to be a big plot thread dangling out there probably for dozens or hundreds of episodes to come. Who knows? I'm not even sure where things are at, in the manga. I understand it's starting back up in a couple months, but definitely excited. So a lot of fun. My episode question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts, obviously, now on this, just kind of some of the nods that we had to things like tape players and, like, the Joystation, which is, pretty much a PlayStation. For me, I really enjoyed some of those things, and I don't know if those were in the original, because I forget exactly what year PlayStation came out, maybe 95 or 96. Yeah, so maybe they would have still referred to it in the original. But, what are your thoughts on some of the nods that they give to kind of these older game systems and even some of the older electronics like tape players and things like that many younger kids today, I know I've got a couple of kids that would look at me and be like, what? Tape player? So they don't know what the hell that means. We haven't had one in our house in probably 5 or 10 years. So anyway, let me know what your answer is to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
Remember to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even my other channel.